The galactic tribunal chamber floated above a dying star, its crystal spires catching light that had traveled 10,000 years to die against their surfaces. 400 species sent their representatives there. They came in robes of living metal, in floating thrones, in biological ships that breathed the vacuum. They came to judge, to decree, to laugh at the small ones. Earth was the smallest. I stood in the center of that chamber, and I felt the weight of their contempt pressing against my skin like heat from an engine core. My name is Cora Vance. I was 27 years old, the daughter of a Martian colony farmer and a lunar shipwright. I had no fleet. I had no army. I had only the truth, and the truth was a fragile thing in that place. "You must stop," I said. My voice did not shake. I had practiced for months in a cold room beneath the Arctic ice, speaking to empty chairs, learning to make my words cut like steel. The outer colonies are not yours to take. The people there are not yours to displace. If you continue, you will force Earth into a war we do not want. The High Arbiter, a creature of woven light and ancient patience, leaned forward. Its form shifted through colors that human eyes could barely register. "You speak of war, little human. You, whose fleet could not defend a single moon. You, whose species still fights over lines drawn in dirt. You threaten us." "I am not threatening," I said. "I am warning." Laughter rolled through the chamber like thunder. A delegate from the Veraxis hegemony, a being with 6 arms and eyes like burning coals, rose from its seat. "Warning? From a species that cannot travel between stars without borrowed ships? From a world that still buries its dead in dirt?" I held my ground. "We bury our dead because we remember them. Do your people remember theirs, or have you lived so long that names mean nothing?" The laughter stopped. The chamber grew cold. The High Arbiter's light flickered, once, twice, and I knew I had crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. "Guards," the Arbiter said quietly, "remove this insect." They came for me then. Armored things, faceless, moving with the precision of machines. I did not run. I had been told not to run. My final words echoed through the chamber as they seized my arms. "Earth will remember this. Earth will answer." The blow came from behind. Then nothing. But somewhere beneath the Antarctic ice, buried deeper than any alien had ever searched, a countdown began. They did not kill me. That was their mistake. The High Arbiter wanted me to live, to return to Earth broken, to tell my people what the galaxy thought of us. A warning, they called it. A lesson in humility. 3 days they held me in a cell of transparent alloy, letting every delegate walk past and stare. Let them see the human, caged and silent. Let them remember our place. I remembered their faces instead. Every one of them. When they dumped me on a cargo freighter bound for the Sol System, I sat in the hold and counted. Not ships. Not weapons. Names. 400 species. 300 who had laughed. 40 who had looked away. 60 who had watched with something that might have been guilt, or hunger, or curiosity. I would remember all of them. The freighter dropped me at Saturn's orbital depot. No ceremony. No apology. Just a hatch opening and a dockworker's board voice. "Earth transport leaves in 6 hours. Don't miss it." I didn't go to Earth. I went to Titan. The hidden base was exactly where they'd told me it would be, beneath the methane lakes, behind a thermal shield that read as geological noise to every scanner in the system. I walked through the airlock and into a war room that had been waiting for my signal for 20 years. General Marcus Thorne met me at the door. He was old, older than he had any right to be, with a face carved by decisions that could never be unmade. His uniform carried no insignia. None of them did. The fleet that slept beneath Earth's ice had no ranks, no flags, no public record. It had only a purpose. "They didn't kill you," Thorne said. "Not a question. They wanted me alive. A message." He nodded slowly. "We received it. The Council has moved 12 battle groups into the outer belt. They're staging for an assault on Mars. They think we'll surrender. They think we have nothing to surrender with." He stepped aside, and I saw the table. Holographic. Glowing. Across its surface, the entire Sol System spread out like a wound, red icons everywhere, alien warships circling every human world. Earth was surrounded. Mars was already lost, for all practical purposes. The colonies on Ganymede and Callisto were dark. And beneath Antarctica, beneath the Pacific, beneath the surface of the moon itself, green icons began to blink. "They're wrong," I said. Thorn almost smiled. "They always were." The first ships broke ice at 0400 Earth time. I watched from Titan as the feeds came in, massive hulls rising from the darkness, water cascading from their flanks, engines igniting with a light that turned night into day. The Leviathan. The Goliath. The Hammer of Earth. Names that had been whispered in secret for generations, now burning across every screen in the system. The alien fleets saw them. The alien fleets fired. And the silent fleet answered. The first volley from the alien fleet should have ended us. 12 battle groups, each one capable of leveling a world, opened fire simultaneously. Beams of concentrated light crossed the void toward Earth's rising ships. Plasma torpedoes screamed through the black. Kinetic rounds moved at fractions of light speed, invisible and unstoppable. The human fleet did not flinch. It vanished. Not destroyed. Not scattered. Gone. One moment the green icons filled our displays, the next, nothing. Empty space where warships had been. The alien commanders hesitated. Their targeting systems scrambled, searching for targets that no longer existed. In that moment of confusion, the silent fleet returned. They appeared inside the enemy formation. Cloaking fields dropped. Cannons that had been charging for centuries discharged at point-blank range. Alien cruisers shattered like glass. Carriers erupted from within, their reactors cooking off in chain reactions that lit the darkness like dying suns. The Hammer of Earth moved through the wreckage like a scythe, its main gun firing once every 30 seconds, each shot deleting a capital ship from existence. On Titan, I watched the feed and felt nothing. Not triumph. Not relief. Just the cold clarity of a machine that had finally been allowed to do what it was built for. Thorn stood beside me, his arms crossed. Phase 1 complete. They're in full retreat. They're regrouping, I said. The Council still has reserves. The Eternal Armada. Let them come. The Leviathan rose from the Pacific 3 hours later. I had seen the schematics. I had walked its corridors in simulation. But nothing prepared me for the reality. A ship the size of a mountain range, its hull studded with weapons that had no names in any alien language, its engines burning with the stolen fire of 1,000 dead stars. Admiral Soren commanded from its bridge. I had never met him. I knew his reputation, cold, patient, and utterly without mercy. He opened a channel to the war room. His face was hard, his eyes darker than space. Counselor Vance. The Eternal Armada is moving. 10,000 ships. They'll reach Mars in 72 hours. Can we stop them? He paused. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Not doubt, but recognition. The weight of what we were about to do. We can end them, he said. But there will be no turning back after. The galaxy will never forgive us. Good, I said. We're not asking for forgiveness. The Leviathan turned toward the void. Behind it, the entire silent fleet formed a spear aimed at the heart of the Council's power. And somewhere in the depths of space, the High Arbiter finally understood. The insect had teeth. The insect had always had teeth. It had simply been waiting for permission to bite. The Eternal Armada met us at the edge of the asteroid belt. 10,000 ships, arranged in formations that had held for millennia, their commanders veterans of 100 conquests. They had never lost. They had never faced an enemy that did not break at the sight of them. They had never met humanity. Admiral Soren's voice came through every channel, calm as still water. All units, execute formation Sigma, 7. Cloak on my mark. Mach. 3,000 human warships vanished from every sensor in the galaxy. The alien commanders fired blind, their weapons tearing through empty space, their screens showing nothing but the cold stars and the approaching dread of the unknown. The Leviathan remained visible, a decoy, a challenge, a promise. Soren wanted them to see what was coming. They took the bait. The entire armada turned toward Earth's flagship, their guns converging on a single point. But the Leviathan's shields were not built by any science the Council understood. Beams splashed against its hull like rain against a mountain. Missiles detonated kilometers from impact, stopped by fields that bent physics into knots. And while the aliens poured fire into the void, the silent fleet struck. Dreadnoughts appeared behind the enemy's main line, firing into engines and command bridges. Carriers launched swarms of drones that targeted weapon batteries with surgical precision. The hammer of Earth punched through the Armada's center, its main gun cycling every 15 seconds, each shot a thunderclap that left wreckage in its wake. But the aliens adapted. They always adapted. New formations snapped into place. Ships that had seemed shattered revealed secondary systems. The Eternal Armada had not survived 10,000 years by accident. "They're learning," Thorne said, his voice tight. I watched the display. Green icons were blinking out, not many, but enough. Enough to matter. The hammer's guns were overheating. The Leviathan's shields were down to 60%. We had hurt them badly, but they were still fighting. Still killing. "Where is Soren?" I asked. The screen flickered. The Leviathan was moving, not toward the enemy, but away. Retreating. The alien commanders saw it too. Their pursuit was immediate, hungry, confident. And then I understood. "He's drawing them in," I whispered. "He's leading them to." The trap snapped shut. From behind the orbit of Jupiter, from the dark where no one had thought to look, the Second Fleet emerged. Not the Silent Fleet. The Forgotten Fleet. Ships that had been built in secret, crewed by volunteers who had been told they would never return, armed with weapons that violated every treaty humanity had ever signed. The Eternal Armada was surrounded. And Admiral Soren finally gave the order. "All units, open fire." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Eternal Armada was gone, not retreated, not scattered, but erased. 10,000 ships reduced to drifting debris and silent escape pods. The human fleet had lost 17 vessels. 17 against 10,000. The galaxy would never believe it. The galaxy would never forget it. Admiral Soren brought the Leviathan to rest above the Council's capital world. He did not fire. He did not need to. The sight of that mountain-sized ship, its hull still glowing with the heat of battle, was enough. The High Arbiter transmitted a surrender within the hour. No terms. No negotiation. Just submission. I stood on the bridge of the Leviathan as Soren opened a channel to every world in the galaxy. His voice was tired, but steady. "You called us weak. You called us an infestation. You killed our diplomat in your chamber and thought we would crawl into the dark and die. You were wrong. We are not conquerors. We do not want your worlds or your resources. What we want is simple. Leave us alone. Touch our colonies again, harm one more human life, and we will not stop at your armada. We will not stop at your capital. We will burn your history from the stars until only ash remains." He cut the channel. The silence that followed was absolute. Back on Earth, crowds filled every street. They did not cheer for victory. They stood in silence, holding candles for the fallen, for Lyanna whose name had become a prayer, for the 17 ships and the 30,000 souls who would not return. I watched from a window in the war room as the fleet descended through the atmosphere, their hulls still scarred, their crews still shaking. General Thorne stood beside me. What now? I thought about the Council's laughter. I thought about the cell where they had put me on display. I thought about the cargo freighter and the dock worker who hadn't cared if I lived or died. "Now," I said, "we build. Not weapons. Not walls. We build something they can never take from us. A future. A real one." The Leviathan settled into the Pacific, its guns powering down, its crew finally sleeping. Above, the stars waited, no longer as a threat, but as a horizon. Humanity had risen. Humanity had answered. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy was silent. Not because we had destroyed them. Because they finally understood, we were never weak. We were simply waiting for the right reason to burn. Years passed. The Council rebuilt, but it was not the same. The laughter never returned. In its chamber, where once 400 species had mocked humanity, there was now a permanent seat, empty, draped in black, with a single name engraved in crystal, Lyanna. A reminder. A warning. A promise. Earth did not become an empire. That was not the goal. The silent fleet returned to its berths beneath the ice, beneath the oceans, beneath the moon's dead surface. The Leviathan powered down its weapons and became a museum. Children walked its corridors, touching the cold steel, learning the names of the 17 ships that had fallen. They did not learn to hate. They learned to remember. I returned to Titan. Not to the war room, that was gone, dismantled, turned into a greenhouse where they grew food for the outer colonies. I went to a small observation deck facing Saturn's rings, and I sat there for a long time, watching the light bend through ice and dust. General Thorne found me there. He was older now, his hand resting on a cane, his eyes softer than they had been. "You did it," he said. "They'll leave us alone." "Not because we scared them," I said. "Because we showed them something they'd forgotten." "What's that?" I thought about the High Arbiter falling to its knees. I thought about Soren's voice, tired but unbroken. I thought about the crowds with their candles, silent, not celebrating death but honoring life. "That the smallest fire can still light the dark," I said. "That a species that buries its dead will always outlast one that doesn't. That we are not dust. We never were." Thorne nodded slowly. He sat beside me, and we watched the rings turn. The last message from the Council arrived the following year. It was brief, formal, and carried no arrogance. It acknowledged Earth's sovereignty over every human world, recognized humanity's right to exist without interference, and ended with 3 words that had never appeared in any Council document before. We were wrong. I kept a copy in my pocket, next to a faded photograph of Lyanna. She was laughing in the picture, young and unafraid, the way she had been before the chamber, before the guards, before the silence. I looked at her face sometimes and wondered what she would have thought of all of this. I think she would have smiled. The fleet slept. The galaxy watched. And humanity, at last, lived.